Hi there, Brad Deal, Associate Professor at Louisiana Tech. Thank you for offering to serve as a guest critic for our midterm reviews for the ARC 415 class this fall. Just thought would take a minute to introduce the project to you so you know what you're in for when we come over to visit. Thanks again to Sam Markham for hosting us and connecting us, and looking forward to having some students over in your office real soon. So, just a little background, the students are working on a high-speed transit hub, um, a mixed-use project for Dallas, situated right on the convention center. And so this is just a little bit of the opening presentation I gave them. Um, to start the quarter. So we acknowledge that um, high-speed trains is basically a revolution that has kind of been happening all over the world, but not in the US so much. But if there is a place where it's going to happen, Texas seems to be the place where it's most likely to occur first, and that could be a catalyst for the rest of the country. The high speed line from Fort Worth to Dallas and from Dallas to Houston and connecting the Texas Triangle um, seems to be the lowest hanging fruit in terms of high speed trains. And this could be, should be a revolution and a promising new direction for urban development to grow towards pedestrian-oriented living, getting us out of our cars and into public transportation and walkable transit-oriented development. So there is a whole network planned for the United States, with this Fort Worth to Houston line being, the thing we're part of what we're trying to accommodate right now. So there's a group called Texas Central that is currently buying up land and planning on all of this to come together. This high-speed line to Houston should get you back and forth in about an hour and a half instead of 3 hours or more. There is also, and they have a plan. They have a plan for a station to end just right here, just south of I-30 in the Cedars, in this Trinity River kind of Greenway area. Then, of course, as you all know, there is the DART train system, very successful public transit system in Dallas that the students are trying to tie in with this high-speed line. And on top of that, the high-speed line to Houston, you've got the TRE, the Trinity Railway Express, is actually it is in the process of being replaced. Um, or it's trying to be replaced by a high-speed line that runs along I-30, uh, connecting Fort Worth, Arlington, and Dallas through a line that's supposed to end right at that same place that the Houston high-speed line ends. This line is a little interesting in that it's got a series of tunnels, trenched at grade, and then elevated sections. So the elevated section is what would come along I-30 and into Dallas. So it's raised up off the ground about 70 feet to avoid pedestrians and the overpasses. And so trying to bring all these three lines together to make what we call a complete transportation system, kind of having trains fill in between other public transportation and air travel is sort of the goal that the students are looking at. So we framed it as Dallas Fort Worth transitioning towards pedestrian-oriented development. It's on the precipice of change. It could become a model for other U.S. cities that are trying to move away from single occupant vehicles and towards pedestrian and transit-oriented development, trying to make walkable, mixed-use cities, mixing residential and commercial. Um, we're introducing to them and asking them to really think a lot about pedestrian-oriented spaces, so streets that are not dominated by cars, trying to get away from traffic and towards pedestrian-oriented streets, trying to get transit-oriented development powering and renewable energy powering clean transportation. That's kind of the TOD goal, right? And so we're acknowledging that Dallas is is dominated by the cars currently, as is most of the United States, but trying to look towards dense urban living. And so their project this time around is we've chosen two sites for them to consider all this coming together, and this is where the high-speed lines uh, will converge and where they come closest to overlapping with the DART. And so they're going to make they're going to design a mixed-use transit hub that's going to hopefully attempt to make Dallas a model for U.S. cities to pursue equitable, sustainable, transit-oriented development. They got two site options here. One that we're calling the north site is basically this whole triangle adjacent to the K. Bailey Hutchinson Convention Center. The site is this whole triangle, but we further defined a buildable area that's a little smaller than this. I'll show you that in a minute. And then we have a south site, which is across I-30 and kind of given over to the Cedars. But both sites are along these existing freight lines. Of course, we had them do site analysis and research, looking at the different neighborhoods of Dallas. And then in particular, what we're trying to have them do is to address social, environmental, and equity. Social, environmental, and economic sustainability. Program for the project is uh, quite large. We're talking about 500 residential units, averaging about 750 square feet apiece. Um, so a mix of studios, one bedrooms, two bedrooms, 150,000 square feet of commercial and cultural spaces, 150,000 square foot of transit hub. Primarily, that's going to be retail, office and services, and then they've got to provide. Actually, this says 600. Upon further, this is when we first presented it. That was an estimate, but upon looking into the Dallas parking requirements, it's actually more like 1650 parking spaces is what's required with all of this programming, which is quite a challenge, but students are taking it on. And then we're trying to push them to provide quality outdoor space. So, like said a minute ago, we're trying to teach them to chase this triple bottom line that is people, planet, and profit, and to give them some concrete goals to chase there. We looked at the Dallas Racial Equity Plan that was put out in 2023, and it basically identifies five big goals for the Dallas area. Uh, Trying to develop economic workforce and community opportunities, eliminating the wealth gap, trying to close, reduce unemployment and create upward mobility, trying to reduce environmental justice, trying to get low-income people away from historically polluted areas, provide affordable housing, always a big thing anywhere in the country these days. Try to address through infrastructure efforts, close infrastructure gaps where intentionally historic disinvestment has previously occurred. That basically happens when you put affordable housing next to public transit. There are other things, but this is where this project really overlaps. And then trying to address public safety and wellness. Um, so with all of that, I'm just going to show you, these are the sites that the students have been given. The yellow is defined, is their project sites, and then we've got the orange interior portions are the buildable areas where they're allowed to put their buildings and parking garages, but they are supposed to develop the entire area. Um, the project is they're partnering up for this, so it's two people working on the project, and two groups have chosen this north site with the other the other 12 or so working on the south side, but they've got the high speed lines coming in. The one from Fort Worth is coming in at 70 feet above grade. You've got the high speed line from Dallas coming in at grade, and then you've got high speed line from Houston coming in at grade, and then you've got the DART platform underneath the convention center um, to tie into. The main way students are doing this on the north side is either doing a pedestrian bridge over to this vertical circulation core in the convention center, or um, bringing people out of this sidewalk here, which goes towards the train platform across here and into their development on this parcel. Um, the way students on the south side are connecting into, basically got two strategies for the south side that they are looking at. The DART lines currently come out of the convention center here and come around here to the Cedar Station. There's the two strategies they're considering are either coming off this line with a branch that comes down Cadiz Street, at which point it would turn into a streetcar situation, traveling at grade with the vehicles and under this tunnel in Cadiz, and basically coming to a a streetcar stop right here. Um, and then unloading, and then that being just a spur line, it would go back around into the convention center and then branch out to the other stations. The other way they're looking at connecting this site would be to have an elevated line that would come from one of these parking garage decks here, utilizing the elevator and vertical circulation core there, coming from one of these parking decks and elevated line over these tracks and coming alongside parallel to these tracks, but elevated at about 35 feet above grade. So that's the arrangement I've been calling the Dart sandwich. It basically would create a situation where you've got the Houston high-speed rail line, which is going to be a parallel track running parallel to these freight lines, heading south towards Houston. Then you would have stacked on top of that at 35 feet, the Dart spur line connecting to the convention center, and then just above that at 70 feet in the air, you would have your uh, Arlington Fort Worth high speed line that goes out towards Union Station and then heads west towards Arlington. So that's how the students are approaching it and what they're working on. The projects are big. They've worked on structured parking uh, to get their 1,650 parking spaces in here. They've got housing units that are generally rising up high. It's worth noting that the uh, north side here is relatively flat, of course, with the high speed line coming in at grade here. In that scenario out here, the train tracks are up basically on a levee from this area, and this is getting into the 100-year floodplain. So what the students are doing to react to that is uh, the Houston high-speed line would come along here, and it is about 15 feet of grade separation from the train level to this green space. And so they are basically considering the this ground level as a parking and floodable service zone for much of it, with the first floor pedestrian being at the train platform level. So it's kind of a split level site where you've got this lower uh, uh, flood zone that's going to be used for utilities and services, and then an upper the first floor pedestrian deck level with train platform, and then it goes on up from there. Um, the if I could flip over to this is their assignment we gave them, and I'll attach this in, but they are responsible for their residential units. To respond to that racial equity plan, they have to provide 50,000 square feet of cultural and community space. So that's going to be indoor and outdoor recreation spaces, a multi-purpose event space with a kitchen and a computer lab and lounge with casual seating. They've got to have at least 50,000 square feet of educational spaces. And we've tried to have them use consistent color coding here. So that's going to include some adult education for GED, ESL, and job training services, as well as some after-school programming and spaces for K through 12 tutoring and similar services, and then 12,000 square feet of daycare, childcare facilities serving 0 to 5 year schools, basically for residents living in the development. And then that leaves them about 25,000 square feet of additional education to try to address other goals of the Dallas Racial Equity Plan. The transit hub is going to include 150,000 square feet of retail spaces. So, average 50 tenants if you're going to average in the neighborhood of 2,500 to 3,000 square feet apiece. They've got to include a big 40,000 square foot grocery store. This is like the size of a Walmart neighborhood market, or a smaller, maybe it's HEB if it's in Texas, I guess. Uh, so restaurants at various scales, from counter service to formal dining, small business and temporary spaces for new startups. This is also addressing, small business opportunities in the racial equity plan, and asking them to try to specify tenants that serve those five major goals in REP. And they've got to include trash and loading docks areas. Then you got 50,000 square feet of offices and services related to the train platforms. They've got to have spaces for administrative suites, ticketing, customer service, security, and custodial areas, addressing healthcare issues. They've got to have 10,000 square feet um, of spaces that needs to cover urgent care, um, primary care, a general practice, primary care slash general practice, and then a pediatric services. So we're trying to offer a whole suite of small scale healthcare services, and then leaving the rest of it to address other goals of the Dallas Racial Equity Plan, and then 1,650 spaces of parking. So some big parking structures. So that's the program. Those are the sites, and yeah, this is one of the site analysis boards that one of the students has put together. I won't belabor the point, but there are many different routes at how to send this high-speed line from Fort Worth into our site. Um, this is a quick sketch of what that elevated platform may look like when it's 70 feet up in the air. And if those students that are considering the trying to put the dart in a lower level in between this one and the Amtrak high-speed line to Houston, um, sandwiching all this together is a complicated, interesting, challenging project. So I really appreciate you guys offering to look at these things and give them some feedback. We really look forward to seeing you guys. And yeah, thanks for following along. Talk to you soon.